And this afternoon, Indus 96L has formed in the main development region, believe it or not. We're currently watching two areas of tropical disturbance, one off the east coast of the United States and one in the main development region. Now, this is 96L right here. That's going to be moving pretty much that way, pretty much the cone is a little bit big. It could either skim, like right north of the Caribbean, or head out to sea a little bit like this or something kind of like that. But we're just gonna have to see. Right now, it has a 20% chance of forming in the next 5 days and 10% chance of forming in the next 48 hours, and that one has a 0 in the next 48 and a 20 in the next 5 days. So those are what we're currently looking at. Um, the first system is right here, so it's probably. I mean, right now it's not looking too good. I think the second one is gonna be coming from that cloud, but I could be wrong, or that storm. But that one has a higher chance from the European model. This has a 90% chance of becoming a tropical depression and then a tropical storm. It's probably gonna be following the same path, a little bit the same path as Dolly, and it's supposed to come out here and move north a little bit like this. Well, that one is supposed to move a little bit like that in the next couple of days. So we're just gonna have to see. The biggest threat for impact would potentially be that one if it is to come in the Caribbean or even the U.S. if it is going to maintain tropical storm status as it moves near. I'm not saying it's going to hit anywhere in the U.S. Okay, I'm not saying that. It probably won't. If it does end up forming, it'll be a short-lived tropical storm or tropical depression, but very unlikely at this point. So here's 96L, winds of 20 knots. Not looking too good on the satellite imagery right now. It did have a broad center of circulation earlier. Um, Not too sure if it has kept that. It looks like it kind of kept that broad center of circulation. But most models don't bring it to tropical storm. Most model keeping it around 20 knots and then going downwards. So a lot of models think this will be the peak intensity for that system. I personally don't quite think so. Um, but we're gonna have to see if it will or not be. But as you can see from the CMC again, it's very in line with what I was saying, moving north and taking a turn to the right. And then the GFS showing something a little bit similar with this storm. So we're gonna have to see if any of them, if all or any do form. If both of them form, that's gonna put up already in the H, I believe. But here's that satellite imagery currently. Again, here's that system right now. Um, Here's the system right now. Basically, this is what it looked like around this morning. This area right here. Um, it's just basically a tropical wave with a little broad center of circulation. There's still lots of Saharan dust in the area, which is why it's not very favorable. But as you can see, it looks like it is like detaching from those two, like, I'm not calling it a front, but it looks like it's cutting apart from this. And if it does happen, it's going to be able to concentrate that convection around the center rather concentrating on those outer bands. So if it is able to really cut off from those other tropical waves as it moves northeast, it will be able to develop a little bit better. Now, we're first going to take a look at the GFS model as for the first case. Oh, can't talk today. So right now, as you can see, it does end up forming around at 1,009 millibars according to the GFS model in 18 hours. So that's according to the GFS model. Of course, it could very well have a different. It could very well end up differently, but the GFS model does show that forming and then dying. So it does show it forming and really dying around in the next 54 hours. But it looks like it could potentially actually be a tropical storm for maybe one day maybe. So we're just gonna have to see. And then in terms of that second system, GFS does not specifically show it forming really. Actually, here it is. Here's that second system right here, coming off that way. So that's the second system, I believe. Is that the same one? That's in 222 hours. I don't know if that's the same one. I, could be. Is it in like? Yeah, okay, that's the same one. So yeah, that one also develops in the next week or so. Very like that one has more chance of developing into stronger storm. But again, it's going to be taking a very similar path to Dolly. Other than that, not other tropical development is really expected, except a potential one in the southern Caribbean and one or two tropical waves could be an area to watch. But that's pretty much it. Now I'm gonna go through most models just to go through all of those different possible outcomes. So CMC does not show that system specifically developed. Maybe short one in 42 hours briefly, but we're just going to say the CMC does not show that develop at any moment. And it's on board though. It is on board with the second one, but with a weaker system than the other models. So far, the GFS is the most on board one with those systems. Now, as we take a look at the European model, those are the morticity level. Um, so again, I do know that the European model is not on board with that main development region one, but it does seem it is rather on board with that second one. Forming, so it does look very on board with that as well. We're gonna take a quick look at each of them just see if they're on board with that or not. Again, icon not really showing that area and the main development region forming, but it's not going far out enough to show that right now. Um, yeah, so it does seem like out of most model, if we do look at those, if you take all the models together, it does seem like we could have something a little bit like this, and then that one. Here are like all the models combined for that one. So those are like the three models. I mean, it's just a possibility. And for this one, only one model shows it, and the model that does show it moves it that way, and then the second model moves it like that way, kind of. So it does seem like one model even brings it like really south, like all the way down there. So it does seem like the second one is a lot more likely at this point to be Edward, but we can still get surprised. And I don't know if you guys remember, but I actually predicted this like 3 days before, like when it was all the way down here, that it could potentially form. So I'm gonna put a pat on the back for me with that one. Eastern Pacific, just that one, 30%, looking very good on satellite imagery. So, and we also have a 20% one as well, very quiet, or no, averagely quiet there as well. Now we're about to take a look at the ocean analysis very quick. Now, very surprisingly, okay, lots of stuff happening. First of all, the La Nina, it's going up. Could even become an El Nino again, or just neutral. So we have a lot of indications that this might not be as strong as a hyperactive season as we previously thought, but it still be very active. Now, first of all, this is continuing to rise and could be neutral or even go back to an El Nino stage. Second of all, pretty much every single, like the entire Atlantic is cooling down. That's the second thing. Look at that. The El Nino, it's warming up, as you can see, and then the entirety of the Atlantic is literally cooling down, except the northern part of it. So the entire part where we do usually see tropical development, this entire area is actually cooling down right now. Which is rather interesting because that's where it was very very warm in April, much warmer than average, and now it's just going down and cooling down significantly. So that's very interesting to say the least. So we're gonna see how that does end up, going out. Uh, so it's rather interesting to say the least to see if we're gonna get that forming or not. Now I do like to go to Twitter and the Boo because he does show all that morticity and stuff like that. So we're gonna be going to that very quick. We're about to move on to that, as you can see on your screen. So sorry about the background. My sister's watching something, by the way. Okay, here's 96L Invest. Tu peux baisser le son maintenant? Here's Invest 96L, 20% chance in the next 5 days. again, you can see that rotation connected to this. He also shows the two areas where it could go and stuff. Um, so you will see with that. What else? Yeah, he's saying too dry for anything in the main development region, and then he's talking about the second one. Two models, one showing 2003, one 2007. So it's gonna be pretty interesting to see how that does end up going. Um, okay, so he's saying another wave is starting to build up. So we're gonna have to see how that does end up going out. I'm gonna quickly also check out Mike's weather page just so that we can check out the wind shear for those two systems and how that's gonna be playing an effect with how they do form out. So if we look at the shear tendency, it is rising a little bit in most of those areas. So first one, where that disturbance is currently, it's around there. But as it's going to be moving in that area, it's going to be getting into very unfavorable conditions. And that second one, it is also in a rising area, but it should be fine. I mean, it could be rising, but that doesn't mean the wind shear is specifically that high. If you look at the shear map, yeah, okay, it is pretty high, but it is pretty unfavorable throughout the Atlantic right now. Even where that system is currently right here, it is in favorable conditions. But as it's going to be moving, it's going to be in unfavorable conditions for like the entirety. So that's why National Hurricane Center said if it's going to form, it's going to be like right now. And then the second system, it does have a little bit more favorable conditions. So we're going to have to see how that does end up going out. Anyways, that was today's tropical weather update.